Hi, everybody. Welcome to Milestone Hub. Today we have Nat Sole. So, Nat, we will just let you take it away. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, so my name is Nat Sole, and I live in Ottawa, Ontario, and I'm an executive function coach. And just to put it more plainly and accessibly, I turn clutter into clarity. So I really help people focus, have follow through, and have trust in themselves to reach their goals and build successful lives that they want to have in a realistic manner. So yeah, that's what I do.
And
Love
how long have
that.
you been doing that, Nat?
So it's as I've been certified this time, so for executive function, this has been about 2 years where I've really honed in and focused on that part of my coaching. Um, I'm double certified as a life and mentoring coach. So I am ACC and PCC certified. Um, and my first certification was 18 years ago when I was a personal fitness trainer. So I was a trainer for over a decade in a gym, as well as privately for another additional 5 years. And I still, when people need advice, I'm always there to still help in that manner. So during that time, I certified in simple life coaching. And it was part of the qualifications I needed to maintain my master personal fitness trainer certification. Then, when I stopped doing that, during the beginning of the pandemic, I sort of thought to myself, and I'm sure a lot of people thought this, like, what happens next for me? I worked in the service industry, which is obviously an industry that was majorly affected. Um, and so I kind of took a step backwards and thought about the things I'd done before, the things I had really found like a love for before. And life coaching was one of them. So I went and I became like gold standard certified with the Canada Coach Academy and worked really hard on getting that certification. So that is also with the International Coaching Federation. So I'm under a body, which is great because sometimes coaching, as you guys probably know from encountering coaches or whatnot, is that they're not all the same. They're not all
Yeah.
held to the same standard, right? Unlike a lot of other professions where you are working with people's mental health or physical health, there's a lot of education and training involved, whereas coaching, it's sort of like sometimes can feel like a bit of a free for all. So I want to make sure that, yeah, I got the highest certification I could for life and mentoring coach. And then from there, I chose my field, which is executive function. Yeah. So that's about me.
I love that. I love that. Sam, do you have a follow up question to that? If you don't, I sure do.
Let's take it away.
All right. Now, I'm just really curious with you as a person, was there something specific that triggered that for you? And I know fitness was obviously a massive passion for you. Makes
Mhm.
sense that you would go into that space. I know that's sort of what happened with my own coaching. Is there something external of the pandemic that really like triggered for you? Executive function would be like the place for you.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question because, like you mentioned, fitness was where I went into, or my interest started in coaching. Because when I was training people, oftentimes in a gym scenario, when you're not training specifically for goals such as marathons, triathlons, etc., which I did train people for those, but the more general training I did was people going through something in life, whether it was a breakup, divorce, a change in career, change in health. So oftentimes during our sessions, we would talk. And I found myself a lot looking outside of just the physical part of the session and looking into the emotional part of the session as well. So that's where my life coaching in general started. And to break it down to the executive function, I said to myself, what really are you good at? What makes you tick that helps you help others tick?
Love it.
And that's where sort of like I molded into more, or I should say zoned into more executive function. And when I say executive function, a lot of people go, what's that? What does that mean? You know? And there's like
Sure.
many ways to describe it. But that's why I say to people, I turn clutter into clarity, or I help you turn clutter into clarity. But also, I use a lot of help with people's like emotional regulation. So that's a little addition I bring into the executive function where it's not just like, oh, get yourself a planner and set reminders, right? I also delve into using like intuition. I think I've gained from working in the service industry because everything is sort of a chain reaction to the other. I use that intuition to discover why there's clutter because everyone has a different reason why the clutter exists within them. So I use that intuition to sort of try to discover like, Sam, what's his clutter? Does he need an alarm set every hour, or does he need to talk more a little bit about why he has trouble being on time? Where does that stem from? So yeah, that's like, I know that sort of like was a long way to answer your question,
Oh, I love
but
it. I
I
love
love
it.
it.
yeah, it really is just like, I wanted to hone in on what I felt I was best suited for. And delegation has always been something exciting for me. And so a lot of times just in life coaching, general life coaching, the advice is you don't give the advice.
Yeah.
They hone it in themselves. And this is a little bit of give and take here, what I do. Yeah.
And what's the biggest myth about personal transformation, like you're trying to get out of people, that you feel you've had to really help your clients unlearn?
That could be a bit of a loaded question. And I'm not saying that you loaded the question, but I'm just thinking because, with respect to everyone that is in the coaching field, I would say the biggest myth is that you need a lot to do it. You need a lot to find the answer. You need either a lot of sessions, a lot of crystals, a lot of potions, a lot of this, a lot of that to find you. For me, I think that you find you right where you're at. And all those things are super amazing. I mean, my water bottle has chlorophyll water in it right now. And, I've got a bag of grapes here and a crystal lamp behind me. I have all those things as well. But to me, those are additions to your discovery, not how you get the discovery, if that makes sense.
It
Yeah, I
does.
think
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great, it's a great way of looking at it. And I think oftentimes in our coaching, we kind of come to, I always recommend when somebody's looking at coaching, don't start super specific. Just start with things that you already talk to people about on a day-to-day basis. And then you'll find within that what works for you. So like yourself, it's transformed over time, but that transformation has so many building blocks that are part of it. You're never going to fully let go of fitness. You're not going to let go of life coaching. Like they're now just one big whole with many different pieces because you've learned and you've progressed and changed over time, right? In those 18 plus years.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really amazing. So often in coaching, I find it's go into this really specific thing and find this really specific area. For me, it started in therapy. I started in psychology and I've niched down into diet. So, I mean, it really depends on the individual, but I think it's really amazing to see the transformation that's happened in your career.
Mhm.
And, you know, you start off really big and then you kind of come in small, but really the answer in all of that is simplicity is right there all
Yeah.
along, right?
Yeah.
Super,
And
super
just,
cool.
yeah, just finding what feels authentic to you. Because
Mhm.
when you live with authenticity, it resonates to everyone
Mhm.
that you're coaching or even the people just around you. So when you're authentically yourself and you have found your niche, um, this is something that will resonate with everyone that you are coaching. And I really like that you mentioned that, Jenny, not starting niched, because I sort of felt when I really decided to, stop personal training and move more into a life coaching as described didn't sit with me. It didn't
Mhm.
rest in my soul the way I wanted it to. And I kind of tried to force it to until I discovered executive function. And I was like, yes, that is what I'm good at. And that is what like resonates with me. But it took some time because I was trying to make uh the general life coaching sit in my soul. And it wasn't. And it was kind of bumming me out a bit because I was like, I know I'm good at this. Everyone comes to me for advice. My nickname in the service industry was Mama because I took
Yeah.
care of everybody. Like, how come I can't be Mama life coach? Like, why is this not feeling right? And it was because I had niched myself. I started big, niched myself too quickly, and then had to kind of go back to the drawing board and look at myself. And I spoke with my therapist about it, who is also a coach and mentor to me. And we discussed that. And she was like, yes, you are really good at the big emotions and things like this, but you're also really good at just like living life,
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis and helping people live life on a day-to-day basis and have it be fulfilling. So, I mean, the difference between me and maybe someone else that does executive function is I do bring in the emotional regulation into it. As I mentioned earlier, that's the addition to it. But
Mhm.
yeah.
It sounds to me like your experience, though, having done these different fields really has given you a bit of a leg up in the executive functioning because you're kind of taking a bit more of a holistic approach to it
Mhm.
versus, just like you said, a niched down approach. So even though, it's executive functioning plus all of your experience in other areas. So would you say that you would advise people really to really like deeply explore before kind of honing in on something?
Absolutely. I think that is a really great piece of advice, is to explore all the options. Don't limit yourself. And don't limit yourself because you say you have to be this type, like, you know, as I was describing, like, yes, I do executive function, but I do it in a different manner, a more holistic manner, you know,
Hmm.
where I use more intuition than straightforward, functions. So if someone says, I would love to be a nutrition coach, well, also discovering personal training, that kind of
Mhm.
coaching, discovering, why people emotionally eat,
Yeah.
coaching for people who are emotional eaters or something like this. All of that will develop your nutrition coaching. And you don't have to say, oh, I only talk about diets or I
Hmm.
Yeah.
only talk about nutrition. I can also understand why you would come to a nutrition coach because I've
Hmm.
discovered all these other things along my path.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so true. I mean, I say I love that all the time because I love everything you say, Nat,
I,
but
I
I
also say I love that all the time. I'm trying
I
not
love
to.
that. I love it. I love it. It is
Yeah.
who I am. It's what I bring to the table. But I
Mhm.
think it's true. You know, our careers, even across the course of our lives, where historically our parents' generation sort of went into a career at 18 years old and they retired in the same career at the same desk at 65. We have a lot more experiences and a lot more opportunities to explore ourselves and relationships with other people and different things that we learn. I mean, I'm sitting in front of a bunch of crystals too, so I'm right there with you, Nat.
Yeah.
But you know, it's really cool when you can kind of just bring who you are. And I think, and I'll ask you a question about this in a second, but my own personal opinion on it is we see people, especially new coaches, really struggling with that. Oh my gosh, there's so many people in this space. What makes me unique? What do I bring? Why should I pursue coaching? And to me, I think it's the individual, but I'd love to hear what your thought on that is, Nat.
I agree completely that it's the individual. So, take for example, someone looking for a therapist. They go to one person, that person, it doesn't feel right, but you've already paid for the session, da, 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 right? And you look around and you find the right one. It's the same thing with coaching is the people coming to you need to feel connection to you. So not everyone is going to connect with me or going to connect with you or going to connect with you, Sam. But it's really important that they do. I think it's the most important part of the coaching relationship, and I think that's why I'm not sure in your industry, but a lot of people on my sort of side of things offer like a discovery call. So
Yeah.
I have a free 15-minute discovery call. And then I also have some forms that you fill out before we've had a session so that we can already decide, are we the right fit for each other before you've made a commitment to me and before I've also made a commitment to you.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question to that.
Mhm.
We were talking about it being a good fit for the clients, but on your end as a coach, does it happen often that you also have to turn clients down because they're not a right fit for you?
It has only happened once with me.
Okay.
And we had made a commitment for a bit, and it just was like we just weren't right for each other. And there's nothing wrong with that
No.
because everyone has an idea of how their life should be tailored, And like you were saying, Jenny, our parents' generation was you go to that desk, you sit at that desk, and you wait for retirement, basically. You
Yeah.
wait to retire. And
Yeah.
isn't it so beautiful and amazing for us that we're sitting here today, dressed the way we want to be dressed, in environments where we want to be, talking about
Yeah,
things we want to be talking about, you
Mhm.
know?
it's incredible. It's
So,
incredible.
yeah, I don't take that for granted at all. And though it's disappointing if someone weren't to connect with me, as a Leo, I might take that a little personally. But I also understand that we can't all connect with each other because we come from different backgrounds and have different ideas of how our life should be tailored. I
Mhm.
want mine
For
to be
sure.
fun, free, and fancy, you know? So, yeah.
I'd love to know how you navigate, 'cause it's definitely something I come across in my own coaching. How you navigate clients who come in with that, I am so motivated, I'm ready to go. And then, as we all know, motivation fails and everything churns, and suddenly they've got a headache and they're not showing up for their meetings and they're maybe not doing their task list and they're starting to like fall back. How do you handle that situation?
So I think that is where personal training really,
Yeah. Yeah.
really has been helpful. Having been a trainer for a decade, well, over a decade, but in a gym for a decade, that is what is very helpful in this space. Of I do have some boundaries set in place, and in the contracts that are signed before any money or anything changes hands, I do have strong contracts about cancellations and fees and whatnot. And that does also come from my training days, where I was really young and I was like a little more like, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. And then you're sort of like, oh, but I just spent my time here at the gym waiting for you in my uniform. So I can't even work out because I can't work out again, I try to use my intuition to discover why.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is something that people need help with, is commitment.
Yeah.
In many different avenues in their life. I'm sure all of us have, like, even if it's a tiny bit, some kind of aversion to certain commitments.
No
And sometimes that's what it is. Way. So sometimes that's what it is. It's not that they don't like you or that they're irresponsible or like whatever. It's that their aversion to commitment is getting in the way of their desire for betterment. So you just have to like have a nice, gentle session about that.
Yeah.
And sometimes
And I love the fact that you address it. I love that.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes a lot of coaches and mistakes we make in the beginning is exactly as you said, where we have that guilt and we want to help them. I think we all go into coaching with a bleeding heart, right? So I want to be there. I want to support. I know you're struggling. It's okay. But then recognizing we're not actually helping them if we're not teaching them or not working with them. Likely they've ended up in coaching because they're struggling with something. That's why they're here in whatever capacity they're here. But it's our job to help them understand, I'd say in my space, discipline versus mindset, but helping them navigate that.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, is to just spend a little time and say, I've noticed, this is going on. Why do you think that is? Or how can I help you?
Yeah. And let them have ownership, right? Ownership of what's acknowledging and then owning the experience of what's happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kind of building on that, what would you say is the most uncomfortable truth that you have to kind of regularly talk to clients about? Like, what's something that comes up often, throughout your practice?
An uncomfortable truth. There's something I like to say to people, and this typically has to deal, and like I've said, I am sort of show myself as an executive function coach, but I also deal with a lot of emotional work with people. So I'd have to say an uncomfortable truth tagline I have is, people will always show you who they are. So they will always show you who they are. You just have to be paying attention. So I know, that's sort of an uncomfortable truth I've had to share with some people, when it comes back a few times, still discussing the same situation, is like, think back to when they showed you who they are. And 10 times out of 10, they'll sit for a moment and go, and I can see that they've just discovered something.
Ding.
Yeah, they have that, as we call it in coaching, that aha moment. So that is an uncomfortable truth that does come up more than I'd like it to. But I think that it is something that's important for everyone to know when entering, intimate relationships, partnerships, business partnerships, regardless, is people will always show you at the beginning who they are. Please pay attention. And most of the time they're showing you really good. It's not often, it's more times that people are good people than not. So, yeah. But yeah, Now I'm curious
Great
about
answer.
your
That's a great
uncomfortable truth,
answer.
Sam. Let's know about
Sam,
both
tell
of
us
This is
your
your
about you
uncomfortable
today.
uncomfortable
truths
right now.
out there. Yeah. Well, we
Sam's
can
going to book
discuss
a
that.
call with Nat after this.
Yeah, I'm very curious, both of you. After this, we should discuss what the uncomfortable truths you guys have to share are, because yeah, it was that was an amazing question, because I really was like,
you know what I see the most in my coaching? The uncomfortable truth that you're making the choice. And that's one I always say to people is like, we need to talk a lot about responsibility and ownership. And like, remember at the end of the day, so if we're talking about food, no one's forcing you to eat that cake. You've made that choice. And so like, it's okay. We recognize you might have a problematic relationship with that food. And there might be something beyond that we need to talk about, but we do need to take ownership of the fact that you have made that choice, right?
Yeah.
You are choosing how you respond to all situations in your life. So that's a big one for me, but I think it's very in line with yours. I think it's it's a very similar, like we're showing ourselves who we are too, right? So
yeah. Absolutely. Like, we aren't just shown by other people, we show ourselves daily what we want. You always have to meet yourself too, where you are. Just like I meet my clients where they're at that time. I also daily meet myself where I'm at,
A big one I like to practice is to look in the mirror, right? So if I'm struggling with something, I will stand and I'll look in the mirror and say it to myself. Be like, can I comfortably look myself in the mirror and say this as my own truth? Like, did I execute 100% today? Or did I just convince myself that because I gave 80%, like I met all of my goals for the day? So it's a big one for me, but I like to actually look in the mirror and say it. And then I learned from Mel Robbins, I give myself a high five in the mirror.
Yeah, I love that. Mirror work is amazing. Mirror work is fantastic. It is something that I do use with my clients as well. But the high five at the end, I think I might have to. I'm gonna have to
say I own it.
incorporate
It belongs to Mel
Try it out.
Robbins. I don't want to get it.
Mel
Mel
Robbins,
Robbins.
thank you so much. I will credit you every time that I mention it to a client, but we're definitely throwing that high five in when mirror work is suggested.
Yeah, it's something I learned from one of her books, but it's really like, look at yourself and say, like, I did a great job, or like in the morning, amp yourself up, like I'm ready for the day, and give yourself a high five. Like you deserve to love you going into the start of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's an old tactic, but I love mirror work too.
Yeah.
I am curious, building on that whole uncomfortable truth conversation. How do you avoid burnout or burnout fatigue in this industry? Because obviously we give a lot of ourselves to our work, and especially when we're existing in an authentic space, a whole piece of you goes into what you do, and recognizing boundaries are key. But I still know like emotional burnout and fatigue can definitely be a big thing, especially for new coaches who might not have such great boundaries. So I'm curious how you navigate that.
For myself personally, I have very strict morning and evening routines. And I know that's discussed a lot in wellness spaces, is a morning routine, an evening routine. I also worked so much in my life like crazy, saying yes to everything. Yes to working this event. Yes to doing this. Yes. That I felt that I had an internal burnout that emotionally was being recognized, but not physically or mentally being recognized. And then when I looked back at how I was feeling at that time, I went, wow, were you burnt out? Because all of us have an idea of what burnout looks like. Oh, burnout looks like you lying in bed and, oh, I can't do life right now, or whatever. It generally has the sort of same idea where you can't function. And I was like, did I just have a functional burnout? And I took space for myself to think about the path I was on and how I didn't want to continue on it. So Definitely say no a little bit more. Thank you, Joanna, my therapist, for that one. That was many years ago. She
High
was
five,
like,
Mel Robbins and Joanna.
yeah, yeah. Many years ago, she was like, I want you to say no more often. And she's like, but I'm going to give you an example. Say your friend wants to meet you at 3 p.m. Say, I'm really sorry. Can we make it 3:10? And she's like, no
Love
one is
that.
disappointed. Nothing wrong has happened. And your day will continue. But you have just said no. So that was one of the pieces of advice I would share, is to be able to say no, especially when you're a new coach, and provide yourself with a routine that works best for you. Because not everyone's routine is the same. You know, some
No.
people journaling doesn't work for them. Some
Yeah.
people, reading a book or doing forms, those things don't work. So it's like, find through process of elimination what works for you. For me, first thing when I wake up, I like just brain drabble in a book, like, oh, this and that, and this is what I thought about like 10 minutes ago, da da da. Then I write 3 things I want to do for the day, and I write 3 things I'm grateful for.
Love that. Yeah.
Do a guided meditation, and then I wear my painfully uncomfortable acupuncture slippers while I make coffee.
Oh God.
And then I have my coffee, and now I'm ready to start my day. So I give myself time for me to get my, stuff together. And
Yeah.
then I'm able to take on everybody's emotions because
Yeah.
I've set aside time for myself. Yeah.
I think that's really key. And I really love that you said you acknowledge that burnout doesn't just exist in the standard capacity we think of it. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's mental. It's just brain fog. That's it. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can't get thoughts out. The way that our cortisol and our stress hormones respond to everything is really different. It depends on our age, on our gender, on other health concerns. So it's really important, I think, especially for new coaches, to acknowledge that self-time will allow you, like, you can't pour from an empty cup or put the airplane mask on yourself first, right? Make sure you're good before you try to bring something else to the table, because you will never, if you're bad, it'll take you right down.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you said your airplane mask first, because that's also a tagline I really use often.
You and I are united, girl.
Like, seriously, we are. Like, I'm often in my personal and professional life, I'm like, put your mask on first. Always put your mask on first. And, when you're someone who is a healer of sorts, of any sort, like you are, Sam, and like I am, you attract people in your life in a beautiful way that, you can share that healing energy with. And I think that's probably why we have taglines like put your mask on first, because people come and there's all this, and then, my mom did this or my whatever, and you're like, shh, put your mask on. So yeah.
I love it. And I love that you talked about a routine, because I'm a psycho for routines. So I'm right there with you, but it's unique to us each. Sam loves mornings. I hate them. I still get up every morning and I do my routine because, like you, I have to be in the mindset before I start my day. But if I had Sam's capacity to wake up in the morning, my life would be happier. But here we are. We're not all the same. We're unique. We're all unique in this world. So.
And I think people too, sort of like, they're curious about what all different coaches provide, or a coach they feel like would resonate with them, but they're worried that coach is going to say, well, okay, so at 9 a.m. I want you to do this, and then 10 a.m. And that's not how I do it. I need to know you first, because if I were coaching you, Jenny, I would never talk about morning stuff. I'd be like, she's not a morning person, not forcing her into it. Just like when I was a personal trainer, I would
Right.
say, why do you want to learn how to run? Is it because you think it's going to do something? Like, what motivates you to want to learn to run? And if people were like, oh, like because I want to lose weight, or, you know, in those kind of veins, I would say, well, there's biking, there's walking,
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
swimming. Like maybe there's an activity that you and your body respond better to.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes people are concerned when they're going to a coach, whether it's nutrition, personal training, life, emotional, executive, that they're going to be given something that doesn't work for them. And I was
Yeah.
super mindful of that when I was a personal trainer. Not a chance anyone had the same routine.
Right.
Oftentimes, I would have like 15, 20 clients at a time who were all doing different things, because they are all different people. And that's something I do find sometimes in coaching spaces that I feel a personal disappointment with, is people who are just phoning it in. They're not
Yeah.
looking into the client and saying, what does that person need personally?
So
You
would you
know?
say then for a new coach, not only obviously is it integral then to take the time to get to understand your clients, but it's
Mhm.
also necessary to learn your space, especially for fitness, because if you kind of have this cookie cutter, I won't
Mhm.
name any programs because we don't need to call it programs, but let's say certain certifications, as we noted in the beginning, some have
Yeah,
different value than others.
of
So if I
course.
learn a weekend fitness class and I learn how to do Romanian deadlifts and I start bringing Romanian deadlifts to everybody, but that person can't even bend over and touch their toes adequately,
Mhm.
I'm doing them a disservice. I'm causing them physical
Absolutely.
harm. I'm not doing them any type of service for strength training, longevity training, whatever it is they're in that space for. So would you say for new coaches, or maybe even some long-term coaches, I think we can all agree some of those are kind of cookie cutter as well, take the time to learn your client's needs, but also educate yourself. Even if you want to be broad, as we said, don't niche down,
Yeah.
but educate yourself about the spaces or space that you exist in so you can navigate the individual rather than copying and pasting. Because I think we see that a bit on these kind of social media, join my program, and the program's the exact
Yeah.
same for
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah. And I mean, you said it better than I could have. Like, really, you have to learn your client. But before you learn your client, learn the space and also learn yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, learning yourself is the first step, I think, in any kind of coaching atmosphere. Um, and then learn the space. And then you have the opportunity to freely learn the client, because you have the information you need that's behind you. Now you can focus in front of you, you know? And
Building on,
I, oh yeah. So
Sam's ready to go.
listen, I could literally go on forever. So it's good to actually stop me. Like,
well, no, I just wanted to build on that actually, because when you say about learning the client, so on your website, natsole.com, you mention right at the very beginning, life-changing
Mhm,
conversations. And
mhm.
I'm just kind of wondering, can you give me a bit of an example of a conversation that didn't go well and what it taught you about your approach to really talking to people and actually
Mhm.
getting to that life changing aspect of the conversation? Like, what does that look like to you?
So, a conversation that didn't go well. I can't think of one offhand in a coaching space, but because it's like when you're a coach, you're sort of always on,
Mhm.
even when you're off, even when you're in, you're like hanging out with your friends, space and stuff. And
You're still
I
coaching.
think, yeah, I think where maybe I've had something go a little awry is I've been a little confident in how forward I can be.
Mm.
So I've like come in like a bull being like, oh, I can just say it like it is. And they're going to take it and understand. And I'm thinking of a particular time that happened not that long ago where that technique did not work.
Mm.
And I was confident in, I mean, I'm still confident. We're like BFFs. So we have a fantastic relationship. But I was confident in that moment that being straightforward was going to be of a benefit to the conversation and of a benefit to them and help them understand how I felt about the situation. That's not how that turned out.
Oh.
So again, you don't even have to know your clients. And like you said, Jenny, knowing your space, you know, that wasn't the right time for me to, in that space, to be as straightforward as I want to. I could have used like a little more like gentleness in that conversation, you know? But why I have the, you know, the tagline there, life-changing conversations. I do have to say I did make my website myself. So I like a soft criticism. I'm not a web designer and there are some changes I am going to make to it. You know, as we all develop, and we talked about before the show went on air, is, you know, you start here and then as you go on, you kind of develop. You know, I was really stuck on having those animated hands, you know, very stuck. I was stuck on it for years. I had so many graphic designers. And then one day I just said, I am unable to tell them what's inside my brain. And I don't know why I can't relate this to other people. So I'm going to take time and really try to do this myself. And thank you, Sam. I really appreciate you saying you like them, because that was like such a hard focus for like 3 years. It was really hard for me to get away from.
Sam designed our website, so take it as like an extra compliment. Sam's the designer of us. So
yeah, but you know what I realized is when you know, scroll over the life-changing conversations, these nice little animations that was so crazy for me to fit in those spaces come up. Everyone's looking at their phone.
Yeah.
It only looks good on a laptop.
On the desktop,
mobile.
Mobile life. And I know this. I'm a mobile person myself. So those are the changes that will be made. But what I do will not change. But why I chose that you know, that sort of tagline was because I thought of all the times that I've had a small conversation with someone, you know, whether it be, and Jenny knows this, I worked in the service industry for like half my life. I was a bartender forever and ever. And I had conversations every single night I worked. And some of them seemed benign. They seemed like, oh, we're just having a little chat. And I had people, and I still continue to have people that recognize me from a nightclub where I worked at 12 years ago. It doesn't even exist. It's a dollar store now. Who still come up to me on the street and I'm like, oh my God, I'm my favorite bartender. But I also have had a lot of people over the years say, hey, one time I was at the club and we were chatting outside and you said this to me. Or, you know, we were at the bar and you had a second, you stopped and talked to me and you like said this to me. And I still think about that. And like my heart just like explodes every time, because I know I've had quick conversations with people where they've said something that has resonated with me and has not left me for life. So that's where that sort of stemmed from, the life-changing conversations, is that we don't know the conversation the three of us are having today. A listener could be so affected by it, you know, it could change their world to listen to this podcast. So I didn't say it with ego. I said it from a place of like all the love that I've been shown, from people who've said like, oh, that time you talked to me when my boyfriend and I broke up, and you like gave me a shot and you talked to me at the bar, it really changed like how I felt, and it changed how I look at relationships. So yeah, that's where that came from. It might change over time, you know,
It's
but
you
it
being
felt
authentic.
right at the
It's
time.
authentic.
Yeah.
It's what you said in the
No, I
beginning.
love
It's
that.
Yeah.
authenticity.
I mean, I
Right.
tried real hard to get from clutter to clarity as an Instagram name, and I can only get clutter to clarity 20968. So I decided to dump that one.
Well, I
Yeah.
am curious, Nat, do you think, and this is it's a hot topic, and I think
Okay.
all three of us would disagree or agree on it. I'm not sure. Do you think a new coach really needs to focus on the website and the TikTok and the Instagram and the LinkedIn? And if so, or if not, how do they exist in the virtual space and connect with people?
Okay, so it makes me a little nervous to answer this question to you, Jenny, the marketing queen. So that is a hard question to answer because I focused so much. So I spent a couple $1,000s and a couple thousand what felt lifetimes trying to have my website. And I worked with some really amazing designers, but it just was not clicking with me. And they had all great ideas. Everything was awesome. I love them all. You guys know who you are. But I spent 3 years, all this money and all this time, and my website just went live January 1st because I took 2 weeks, a couple hours out of every day. A couple hours out every day. I said, today I'm working on the writing. Today I'm working on the colors. Today I'll work on the font. And it took 2 weeks with a couple hours every day to bring up a site that currently I'm happy with. I am going to make some tweaks, because now it's kind of feels like it's been up. I want to make some changes.
Isn't that amazing though?
So I know it's wild. It's wild to think about. It's really crazy to think about because I put so much emphasis on that. And at the end of the day, every single one of my clients has been word of mouth. Not one of them has been from my website. Not one. I have not received one client. So if anyone's listening and they'd like to connect at natsole.com, please send me a shout out through there so I can say that all that time and money spent was worth it. So, I really do see the value more so in social media. On a personal level, I don't use Facebook or Twitter. I don't use them, and I hope this isn't to disparage people that do. I just find them a little old school for me. I love TikTok. Anyone that knows me personally knows that I had to make myself major TikTok boundaries. So on the weekends, I can look at it. And if during the week I want to look at TikTok, I have to go on my Peloton and watch it. So I have to bring my little, bring my iPad to my Peloton. So that's like, I love it so much. I had to make boundaries, but that's a whole other thing. But again, how I'm trained in coaching, I do the same things I suggest to people, I live myself.
Yeah.
So I think that's why people do feel a connection with me, is they know that I'm doing what I'm also suggesting. So social media, yes, love it. And you guys, we discussed before we went on air how I'm having a bit of a social media fail right now on Instagram, but we'll clear that up. Yeah. So the website, like, I'm glad I have it. But really, when I think about the pain and suffering I went to have this website, and people are like, oh, it's cute, I love it, or oh, that's nice, that's cool. I love a website because all the information can be right there. On social media, sometimes you have to block it up, like, because you don't want long explanations as your blurbs. And in my last role at this job I used to work at, I did like a lot of our social media stuff. And I would be like, guys, we can't have like 3 paragraphs on Instagram. No one's going to read it. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what your website's for, is when you want to have all those like big, long things and your price lists and all these kind of things. So to make a long story long, or a long answer long, I do see the value in social media, provided that you can use it in a way that really excites people or draws them in. And also, it's free. So why not?
Yeah.
Why not
Yeah.
use Instagram? Why not use Facebook, Twitter, TikTok? It doesn't cost you anything. So why not? You know? And I think you really learn in those spaces as well. You learn what's trending, what's not, like what looks good, what doesn't. And you can constantly develop in those spaces and reinvent your brand in those spaces, because it's costing you nothing to do that. You know? So, yeah.
I've reinvented myself about 500 times on Instagram. So
I'm still gonna like, yeah, like my personal Instagram is like, you know, I don't post anymore. I just have stories. But it's like, if you look at the posts, it's all got that like sepia. Like,
oh yeah,
finished
at a vibe.
Yeah, that was hot the last time I made a post, right? So yeah, we all reinvent ourselves. Why not do it in a free space? So yeah, I agree with social media for those things, because I also feel, even though sometimes people can sort of you know, show the fun side of their life, the good side, this is the great stuff, people always show themselves. People always show them you, even on social media. You will find a post where you say, actually, I resonate with that person because in this post they were being real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll see even from the type of content they produce, right? Are they doing only reaction reels? Are they doing super trending dances? Are they doing just like story sharing? What kind of thing? And again, everybody's different and unique. So I might really align with somebody who does reactions, because I'm like, look at the kind of content that person's looking at and then feeling the need to pull down and react to. Or look at this person who's just brain dumping their own personal story in hopes of connecting with somebody else who might share in or learn from their journey. So I think it's, I agree totally. I think it's really social media, even in its very curated way, is still very telling if you pay attention to the content a person's putting out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I really love your take, though, on the website, because I can relate.
I'm so glad you do.
Very deeply with the hyperfixation on details that at the end of the day, like, you realize just really don't matter that much.
Yeah.
Same thing for Jenny and I when we started Milestone Hub. I'm like very detail, like visual oriented, and like I wanted to build the whole thing from scratch, and like I was completely against like the idea of using any type of website builder. And ultimately our own coach was like, well, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to become a web designer or to become or have a coaching business, right?
Right.
So
right.
I think some people get lost, right? And that's where my concern is like, I would personally, this is my own just personal opinion, is like, do the website if you want, but use the website designers. Like, you don't have to be, you know, an amazing designer. And I love Sam. He has done an incredible job. We are on V2 of our website right now, and it looks, every version has looked amazing. Sam is incredible with his details, but don't get lost, right? Don't forget why you're here. Don't don't focus on being an influencer, focus on community. Don't focus on, you know, all this curated content that you spend hours and hours and hours editing, and avoiding learning your craft and applying your craft. So have the space, talk about what you do for sure, but don't let it denote from what you bring to the table as a coach, especially when you're new in the space.
Yeah. I really wish someone would have said to me, are you trying to be a coach or a web designer? That is the most fantastic piece of advice I've ever heard in my life, and wish I would have received it, because
we did too.
The second you said it, I was like, wow. Yeah. Yeah, what was I
Mhm.
really trying to do for 3 years? Like, was I trying to tell people I was a coach, or I was trying to make something super cool?
Yeah,
You know, like you said, like, you focus on these details. And, this can also be related to life. And this is why coaches
absolutely.
exist, is because sometimes you're focused on these details that aren't the big picture details. They're the little tiny, that space, that hour details, and we
Mhm.
help you to focus on the bigger picture, the big details. And yeah, I mean, when someone said to me, "Oh, I didn't realize that like you could brush over the life and the changing and the conversations," I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was like a lot. That took up a lot of my headspace and a lot of my time." That was the most hours I spent on the website. It took me like no time to write the content, to price
Yeah.
list, all these things. None of that took me time. That took me the most time. And someone's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize you could do that." I was like, cool, 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 cool.
My heart.
Yeah. I was like, yes, you can. And if you click on them, then there's lots of other stuff too. So yeah, I
Um,
get it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I do have like, and we'll wrap up shortly here, but I do have a question. You just mentioned your price list, and I won't ask you to go over your prices here live on the air, but I am curious, and I know that is a big question for a lot of new coaches, is how do I price myself?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's talked about in certain courses. I know some of my courses it was talked about, sometimes it wasn't. So was it something you kind of came up with on your own as you went, or was it something you worked with somebody else in? I'm very curious to know. Did you use the upsell from the restaurant industry?
Yeah.
How'd you come up with your structure?
So I came up with it on my own. In the courses that I took in my certification, we didn't discuss like, we discussed pricing and sort of what they had us do in order to complete our certifications. Is we would offer X amount of hours of coaching for free for practice.
Mm-hmm.
Then we
Mm-hmm.
would offer X amount for a coffee, or a
Mm-hmm.
trade of some sort, or whatever, to get us sort of in the feeling of receiving. And
Right.
then the last part was $20 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have seen all of this on my Instagram, because we've known each other forever. So it was to get you comfortable with asking for money.
Right.
I really believe in knowing your value, but in
Totally.
that same breath, when it comes to money, it's a little bit harder, because what is your monetary value? And
Mm-hmm.
I have a real easy time. I could tell you, Jenny, and you, Sam, what your monetary values are. No problem
Mm-hmm.
in a 10-minute conversation. But for
Mm-hmm.
myself, I struggled a little bit with that, because and Jenny, you mentioned the upsell from the service industry. Because I worked mostly in nightclubs, there wasn't really there was almost
Right.
there was the downsell. It's like,
The dance.
oh,
Here's your free shot.
yeah, exactly. Or there was like, oh, get a shot and a beer for like $10, or you could
Yeah.
buy a different shot, and now you're paying $13. So I'm telling you about that $4 steam whistle, or that $3 Jameson, or the combo, So
Yeah.
and that's just like a little side thing. I've never felt comfortable offering something that's not accessible to people. So when I was thinking about my price list, I did discuss it with my coach, my mentor, who was previously my therapist, and some friends. And I had one friend, and it was the most surprising, because it's like the quietest friend of mine that's like super agreeable, and not, not in a way that's like pushovery, but she's really agreeable. And I said to her, okay, like, I want to charge this. And she was like, ew, no, you're worth way more than that,
Mm.
Oh, okay.
and
Mm.
I was like, You're right. I was. So how I value me and feel good about my value, but still with my personal values, is that I set a price. I made some like, little combinations. If you get 3 sessions, whatnot, you get a bit of a deal. But I also offer 10% off for service industry people, because I know how hard that industry can be. And I know how easy it is for you to lose your regular life functions every
Yeah.
day, sleep in, you don't hit the gym, you grab like a protein shake on the way to work. Oh, you've eaten some fries at the at the
Out of the fry
pass.
bowl.
So it's like I know how easy it is to get lost in that industry. So I wanted to offer a little bit of a discount to an industry that like made my life so beautiful, that like made me have the most amazing life beyond what my expectations would have been if I was thinking about it when I was a kid, So I want to give back. And at the same time too, if someone were to come to me and they'd be like, you really resonate with me, I super could use your help. Like, I work on a sliding scale. I'm happy because I think that any kind of coaching, mental health, nutrition, physical fitness, any of these things that help you to have a beautiful life should be accessible to everybody. So yes, I have a price list, but that price list is valued at what I think I should receive per hour, but it's negotiable depending on what you can give, right? So yeah, I just think things should be accessible way more, and that could be a whole podcast.
Could be a whole podcast, but you're right. I mean, how many people do we know who aren't pursuing therapy and aren't pursuing something they probably really need? And I know Sam works in the addiction space, so he could certainly speak to that. But how many people really are in need, and then they end up in certain maybe free programs, or they're not talking to anybody just because of a lack of accessibility. But I think there's always sort of that fine line when you're starting out in coaching. I think we all underprice ourselves in the beginning, and we have a hard time swallowing that pill, especially if you're coming from, I know you and I both, Nat, from the service industry, where sometimes when I started in the industry, I made $6 an hour. So to price myself out like well beyond that felt really off-putting and jarring for me in the beginning. But then you have to kind of pull it back and say, okay, well, if this person was seeing a PhD therapist, they'd be paying like $1,000 a month for 4 sessions or whatever, right? So recognizing that, like, yeah, we can't underprice ourselves, but we also can't overprice ourselves and lose the accessibility to the people who need our help.
Absolutely. Like, absolutely. Like, we also need to pay our rent and eat and all of those things as well. But I think sometimes when I see some of the prices and sort of like what's offered with your price, I'm like, wow, that's like really inaccessible to people. And if we're getting real, I was a bartender forever. I've been coaching for free like my whole life,
Yeah,
so
same.
like,
Same.
you know what I mean? It's like, all right, to put a little price tag on it now is not a big deal, but
like, I walked you through your entire divorce. It's okay.
Well, I even asked, I asked my mentor, I was like, how do you, like, when you've been basically, giving therapy or mentorship or coaching to your friends your whole life, like, how do you start charging people? Like, where is that line where it's like, okay, this is now a time when you have to pay? Like, where does that, where do we find that space? So, if you guys have found it, let me know, because I haven't yet, but I'm still looking.
I get it on social media a lot, right? So I'll make a post about something that's of importance, and then I'll get a bunch of people who will respond to me with their own questions following up from that. And then I can't just say, hey, by the way, I charge to answer that question. So I'll usually engage with them back and forth. I'll probably try to answer if they have like kind of a one-off question. I'll try to answer it and provide actual value for them.
Yeah.
But then I find oftentimes they'll end up in the DMs wanting, days and days worth of back and forth. And at that point, you kind of have to be like, look, this is also my profession. This is what I do.
Yeah.
So now we need to pull it back. If you want to have an ongoing conversation, I offer these services, but there's a fee attached to it.
Yeah. And exactly. Like, it's always okay to gently remind someone who they just might not know that they're asking a lot of you. They might not have recognized that they're asking a lot. So a little gentle reminder, like, hey, by the way, like, check out my website. It's got super cool, like, hand-drawn hands. Okay. I thought about this for years.
Amazing.
Please recognize those.
Please access it from a desktop.
Please actually notice these. But jokes aside, like, hey, like, I offer quite a few packages at reasonable rates. If you'd like to discuss more, feel free to check out my website, or feel free to check out like wherever your sort of like price listing and maybe even more of a definition of what you do is. To just sort of gently glide people that way. Because I know money is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, we also paid to be part of this profession, so yeah. It's a really fine hard line sometimes,
They get paid to go to their jobs. We should get paid to go to ours. But yeah, it is a fine line. And it's one thing I'm cautious about with social media is not keeping that conversation there, or else they then have 24-hour accessibility to you. And so oftentimes, like, I'll start the conversation there. I'll use it as a place for that. And then I will send them out of that into whatever space, a school or whatever space we're using, away from where they then have 24-hour accessibility, which is sort of that nice transition of like, hey, I love talking to you. If you want to follow my content or I'm going to follow yours, that's awesome. Let's engage. But if you need assistance, like if you actually need some help in this space, like, come on over here and let's have our own unique place where you're not going to get lost between 700 other messages I've received. And let's connect there and just gently segue over to peace.
And you do, bring up something that's important that I think sometimes gets lost in coaching spaces is providing resources, providing other spaces for people to go, or resources for them to use, whether it's a physical resource or emotional or mental resource for people, written resources. Because I find sometimes in the coaching space, people are worried they want to like hold on and be like, I know everything, and they're afraid to say, hey, you know what, like, for example, for me, if someone came and what I really felt was their thing that they needed to work on was addictions, well, I would say, I know someone, Sam, this is what he specializes in, because of course I know things about addictions. Even you and I picked that up working in the service industry. We learn a lot about addictions, right? But I don't have the same training and education that Sam does. So I think sometimes in coaching spaces, people are trying to be, to know everything and be able to do everything. And it's something we all get trapped in, where we're like, oh yeah, I can like coach someone in grief, and I can coach in relationships. And that even helped me kind of like evolve my niche, because I really did feel like I could help people in relationships, help people in grief, but maybe I could help them surface level.
Yeah.
What I do, I can actually get right. Yeah. Am I actually the right fit? But with what I do feel I can get deep. So having additional resources, like you pointed out, for people is also part of being a really great coach, is knowing
it brings back community, right?
You're
community,
not
like
a
you
person.
said in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, I always say to my fellow coaches in my space, like, I love working alongside of you, because for me, I might I focus a lot on digestive health. So like, If I come across somebody who's a woman in menopause, although I'm a woman, I'm not dealing with menopause and hormonal health isn't my specialty. It's really great to be like, hey, let me put you in contact with my colleague in this space who can at least speak with you. And maybe that person can say, no, you know what, Nat, Jenny, you can absolutely handle this. This person's needs aren't super complex, but knowing your fellow coaches and knowing other resources and being able to kind of work together is really, really cool.
Yeah, coaches elevating other coaches is what really makes the profession,
right,
work. It's
the
like
whole
really
point of
working
Milestone
together,
Hub.
sharing. Yeah, exactly. exactly.
That's why we're here, right? That's what we're doing. That's the whole point of this, is like bringing this conversation, bringing your education and knowledge and experience, Nat, to all of our new listeners and all of our listeners who maybe are already coaches of 20 years who want to move into your space. And just hearing what you have to say as somebody who's got lived experience is exactly why we're here, right? We are your community. If you're a new person out there listening right now, or even an experienced person, like, we want to be your community. We all want to be part of this together, elevate each other.
Absolutely. And look to each other if you need resources, advice, or to even pass a client off. When I worked as a personal trainer, there was a few moments where a client was passed off to me because the trainer who had them said, oh, I can't connect with them. Would you try connecting with them? And I felt so honored that as someone who'd been a trainer longer than me and whatnot would trust me with someone who, they said, hey, you know what, I think Nat might be the better trainer for you. And I felt honored. And I also felt like community because, yes, I, train differently than you do. And you recognize that fit this person. Maybe I'll have a client at one time that I see, maybe they need more your style. Right. So yeah.
Totally.
And it's the same in the coaching world. It's like just being able to build community and trust in the community that you've built, that we're here for the right reasons. We're here to make sure that people have like beautiful lives. They feel in control of their life. They feel that they have self-trust. They have confidence. They have follow through. All of us are here to help clients with that. We just deal with different aspects of their development.
Totally.
Well, Nat, this has been an amazing and very insightful interview. I guess I would just maybe ask you, if you like, one last question is, what would be one final piece of advice that you have for the newbies out there, for the people thinking about this space? Advice, experience, just anything that you want to share to close that off.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick one piece, but if I think I was to pick a beginning piece, a first piece, it would be like, listen to yourself first and listen to the experiences you've had to help you decide what space you're best suited in. So listen to yourself first. Forget about all the noise, we're offering 50% off life coaching program this week, or make it like 8 figures being a health coach, or like sit with yourself and forget about the noise and ask yourself, really, why am I drawn to this career? Because not to like rain on anyone's parade, but it is a hard career to get into. It's hard to get recognition. It's hard sometimes even explaining to people what you do. If you say to someone, oh yeah, I have a therapist, they're like, oh yeah, they know what that, they don't ask you one question, or maybe they might ask you, who's your therapist, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But if you were to say, oh yeah, my coach, they're like 20 questions about your coach, right? Because it's hard for people to understand what we do. So really sit with yourself and say, what draws me to this? You know, am I able to sort of handle the ebbs and flows of this career? But also, I want to know myself. I want to know like the special that I will bring to someone else's world. That life-changing conversation, if you will.
I love that.
You know? Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Perfect way to
Love
wrap that up. So that's been great. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh my
I
God.
think you've brought a lot of really great insights for people at every stage of the game. And
Yeah.
It was absolutely an honor, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Nat. We loved having you.
Oh my God. I can come back anytime.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
fantastic. We'll have Milestone Hub with Nat 2.0 in the future, everybody.
Yes.
Stay tuned for that.
I love it. Thank you so much
Thank
again,
you.
guys. This
Nat.
was amazing. Have an
Bye.
amazing evening. Bye.